This week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry with agriculture broadcasters Orion Samuelson and Max Armstrong, and featuring agriculture meteorologist Greg Solier. This week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Case IH and your local Case IH dealer. Coming up on this weekend's broadcast, the international story that has dominated the news dominates the agriculture news, too. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this weekend's broadcast. Mr. Pearson and I are pleased to be able to join you once more, and my goodness, what a week.
What a week indeed, Max. Volatility as Russia has invaded Ukraine, and the markets have been talking about this for some time, trying to price in exactly how to respond if this were to come to pass. But I can tell you, Wednesday night, after Russia made their move, Max, we'll talk a little bit with Jim McCormick about the markets, but they were volatile because Russia and the Ukraine are such crucial providers of so many goods in agriculture.
A development such as this creates so much uncertainty, and markets respond very differently. The equity markets may not respond the same way that the commodity futures markets do. Markets don't necessarily like uncertainty, do they?
They don't, and they certainly try to find a price for it, Max, and that's what we're seeing across the commodity sector as those prices skyrocketed after the invasion. The U.S. dollar has skyrocketed in value post-invasion as investors globally looking for a safe place to put their money.
I am one who always enjoys looking at maps. I have done so throughout my entire life. My mother, Stella Faye Armstrong, would take the map out of each National Geographic, and she wallpapered our bedroom, the bedroom that my brother and I shared. So I would be lying there looking up at Turkey or the old Soviet Union. But it allows us to put in perspective, the more we know about our globe, just where something is happening. And I think some of this has been ignored a little bit in terms of the location and the size and the importance of Ukraine in recent days. Take a look at this overlay. This is from the Central Intelligence Agency. When you look at this map, it shows how it would appear if you were to place it on a map of the United States. 224,000 square miles approximately in Ukraine. And if you put that into perspective, it's roughly North and South Dakota and Nebraska, that equivalent land mass. Or, Mike, another way, if you were to put together Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan, it's roughly that area, 224,000 square miles altogether. Now, that's land miles. And, of course, there's some very important water adjacent to Ukraine.
There is, Max, there is. And when we think about that landmass itself, it's not just inert ground. Ukraine is a notable global producer and, importantly for the markets and for our audience, exporter of feed grains. We know they produce a prodigious amount of wheat. They grow a lot of corn and natural gas production. Max, this is a place where both Russia and the Ukraine supply a lot of Europe with their natural gas needs, which is used for power, of course, but also fertilizer. So those prices might be getting volatile here in the next couple weeks.
If I recall correctly, when it was a part of the old Soviet Union, Ukraine accounted for about 1/4 of the total output, crop output of the old USSR. Many of us harken back to those days, recalling what it was like. We've had some flashbacks in recent days, to be sure. Those of us who recall how the USSR, over all of those time zones, had such an important effect for decades on American life. And I think that's why some of us look at this as such a significant development now.
I think you're right, Max, and I don't think you're alone. As folks who look at it from the perspective of the old USSR, I think Vladimir Putin views it that way as well. And a lot of folks who are familiar with the USSR might be familiar with what Mr. Putin is trying to put back together, perhaps in Eastern Europe.
The thing that comes to mind, and I'm sure you've been telling this to people as well, these events provide opportunity quite often for producers that they will not have otherwise if they just stay astute in their marketing.
That's right. That's right. Volatility maybe makes us stay up a little bit at night because these are crazy prices that we're seeing. But you're exactly right, Max. There are opportunities out there in this kind of volatility, and it sounds like the next several weeks and months might see more of it.
Stay tuned, and we'll talk about weather also. That may provide some interesting dynamics here as far as agriculture is concerned in the weeks ahead. Greg Solier will be in just a little bit later on that subject.
This portion of This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Firestone Ag. The Firestone Ag Dealer Network offers you the support, inventory, and resources you need. Visit firestoneag.com to find your local certified dealer. That Russian invasion of Ukraine certainly moved the markets. Incredible volatility midweek. Jim McCormick of agmarket.net is with us. And Jim, have you ever seen commodity market price moves such like we saw on Wednesday night?
It's been a while. The last time I can really remember was probably in the '08 housing crisis when Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers went underwater. You saw a lot of volatility. The difference was that was to the downside. Right now, at least on the commodity side, the market is going to the upside as the market is just panicking a little bit. The Ukraine is a big provider of grain in the world market right now. We're not certain how that's going to play out, so you're seeing kind of a end user, a little bit of panic buying at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it is panic buying. As you think about what actual fundamental impacts this invasion could have, Jim at agmarket.net, are you guys anticipating Russian and Ukrainian exports to come down in this next year?
I think they are probably going to come down next year. I mean, the reality is you're going to have some trade sanctions on Russia, so maybe some European countries that do a little trading with them. The other thing is just the production of it right now. The reality is, you know, if they are in a shooting war and this drags on, are you going to be able to get that crop planted? Are you going to be able to get it exported? Roughly 15% of the world's exportable supply comes out of that part of the world. So yeah, that could be a problem. Now, something to keep in mind though, we had a small crop, especially like in the corn. You know, Ukraine exports a lot of corn to Europe and other parts of the world, but Brazil, you know, their crop was down dramatically last year. It's probably going to rebound this year, so that will offset some of this potentially, but we really don't know because we haven't been in this situation for a while, plain and simple.
We haven't, and there's a lot of folks who trade every single day these commodities who maybe have never seen a market quite like this. As you think about those investors and the hedge funds who are moving money around the world, Jim, does a move like this pull more of that managed money into the commodities?
I think it does. I mean, because essentially, you know, what invasion is doing is just already exasperating a very volatile food situation to begin with. Food inflation has been on everybody's mind, not just in the United States, around the world. Now you got a situation potentially where you're taking a major exporter of food out of the system. That's going to drive the price of food up, which is probably going to attract more money into the system. So that is something we need to keep an eye on. On the other hand, though, you know, this crisis sometimes is going to provide an opportunity for other people, and that is the American producer right now. You're seeing price levels that, in my belief, that are probably going to be multiple year highs whenever it tops. I don't know when it's going to top. My belief is we're early in the game, maybe first, second inning, as we just see how this plays out. But if you look at these price levels, you get, you know, beans, $17, $18, $20 beans. You are going to ration demand. You get up to $8 corn, you're going to ration demand, but you're also going to stimulate a lot of expansion of supply, especially in South America next year. So these are opportunities for the producers to say, hey, look, I want to come up with a way, a plan to market not just the 22 crop, the 23 crop, and potentially even the 24 crop.
Oof, yeah, great points. Jim, as you think about the expansion in production that these higher prices are going to promote, are they coming soon enough that we could see Brazil expand their corn acres and their safrinha crop this year, or is most of that in and done and that production's locked in depending on weather?
I think they probably do it a little bit. They're still trying to get some of it in, but a lot of it's locked in due to weather. I think they maybe got 30% left to go, excuse me.
Okay, Jim, new crop corn, you're just going to keep watching it? How do you know when this is getting close to a top? What should folks be watching for in the trade?
Well, you know, it always gets most emotional at the top. There's no doubt about it. You're going to look for, you know, on a chart pattern, you might look for a really strong move higher than maybe a day closer on a technical indicator. That's one thing. But, you know, what the producer needs to think about is not picking the top. What he needs to think about is marketing grain, buying puts. You're probably going to buy puts, producers. They may not move, you know, and the market goes $1 higher. Those puts aren't going to work. Reload, do it again. If it goes $1 higher, do it again. Eventually, you're going to be right.
All right. Jim McCormick, agmarket.net. We'll have a lot more discussions on how to manage and market that grain when we return here on This Week in Agribusiness. And we're discussing these volatile markets with Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Jim, spring wheat was the real beneficiary Wednesday night post-invasion of Ukraine, up nearly $1 and sometimes in the overnight trade. Is that enough to pull more acres into spring wheat production?
I think it will be. I mean, the one thing we know about the wheat, corn, and beans, they're all profitable. So, you know, the producers in the Northern Hemisphere are in a very unique situation of which crop they want to plant. You know, if the situation continues to get worse in the Ukraine, if the argument's going to be less wheat being produced in that part of the world, that probably will attract more wheat acres as producers try to cash in on that.
$11 spring wheat, though, Jim, is that enough to pull acres away from beans and corn and dry edible beans and all of the other crops that are competing for those acres with their payouts this year?
It's hard to say. I mean, the one thing I can tell you is it is it's up for debate. We're not going to know that final number probably till the March survey. We'll probably even know really until late summer. When you look at the price of fertilizer right now, that price is not going down more than likely. If anything, it's probably going to go higher. I mean, when you look what's going on over in Ukraine, I know it feels like a million miles away. You're like, how is that really going to affect me as a producer? It could affect you very dramatically near term if you have not got your fertilizer. We get a lot of the world fertilizers comes out of Russia. And then Belarus is another one. Belarus, they launched some of their campaign from Belarus. So if we see some economic sanctions that could limit the amount of fertilizer out of that part of the world, now you got a situation where the rest of the world is scrambling to get the fertilizer to put on this year's crop, which will probably drive the price even higher potentially.
And Jim, I mean, since we're thinking about fertilizer, a lot of growers perhaps put off those purchases as fertilizer prices spiked last summer. Even if there are no sanctions, there's still that natural gas coming out of Russia and the Ukraine that's required for making fertilizer. Is that going to be an impact, these higher energy prices?
It probably will have an impact. The other thing is just logistics of trying to get this all shipped to us right now. So it's a situation that I would not be surprised. Our group is leaning more toward 91 million acres of corn, 90 to 89 million acres of beans. We think we are going to lose corn acres due to the high fertilizer costs and in essence pick up some bean acres. Some of the most profitable dollars per acre ground last year were the farmers that produced wheat, winter wheat, and double crop beans. Those are some of the most better dollars we've seen around anywhere. And I think you look at what's going on right now, that situation can happen again. So we will for more bean acres.
Okay, more bean acres, corn acres. What was your number there? 90, a little over 90?
A little over 90 on the corn, a little under 90 for the beans.
All right, yeah, this acreage battle is still heating up, and with all of the tensions that are growing around the world, it looks set to continue. Jim, let's take a look at the livestock markets. We've seen the hog market just run and run and run. Is it starting to peak out? Are there any signs you're watching that maybe that rally is getting a little long in the tooth?
I think it is long in the tooth. I haven't seen that taping. We haven't seen a sign just yet, but I do think it's kind of long in the tooth. We've seen a little bit of weakness early in it. A lot of fund money's come into this, and it's kind of, I think you're at the point where you're rationing a little bit of demand and you're due for a correction. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen sooner than later.
Do you think we're going to see China as a large purchaser in the protein space from the U.S. this next year?
Probably a little bit more on the beef side than the hog side. They've actually kind of overproduced their hogs. They kind of rebounded. When they tried to rebound from their swine flu, they pretty much overproduced. So their prices have come down on the hogs, but they've really kind of got used to American beef. So I do think you're going to see the beef demand stay relatively strong for China.
Well, that's good news for a lot of the cattle producers out there that like seeing these prices. On the beef side, as we get more and more concerned about inflation, Jim, is that inflation trade going to work its way into the live cattle markets?
I think it will a little bit. I mean, the thing we need to keep about the live cattle market is the demand for the consumer right now. We know the energy markets are going to spike. Your cost of your food's getting expensive. The price of getting to your job is going to get more expensive. That could take a little bit of the demand away from the protein market, specifically the higher end cuts of steak. But on the other side of the coin, we've had a lot of money sitting on the sidelines of consumer spending. I mean, where they haven't gone anywhere because of COVID. COVID's going away, the mask mandates are going down, the country's opening up. I think you've got a very good shot, hopefully this summer, that you're going to see some good summer demand for people as they try to move back to more normal life after COVID.
Get outside, fire up those grills, and eat a little beef. Fantastic. Jim McCormick of agmarket.net, thanks for talking to us about the markets.
Chad Colby's look at agriculture technology comes your way next, brought to you by the IBM Watson Decision Platform. Combining AI with Internet of Things data to help agribusiness increase yields, improve quality, and drive sustainability.
We were too busy visiting, some of us. When we were at the National Farm Machinery Show a few days ago, we sure enjoyed that, but we didn't get to see all of the new equipment on display there by the various companies. Chad Colby, though, gives us a nice little summary this weekend.
Last week at the National Farm Machinery Show, there was one thing in abundance of, and that was a lot of great new machinery. Case IH unveiled the new 50 Series Patriot sprayer, and that thing certainly got a lot of attention. Of course, it's got a new cab, it's got improved styling, but there's a lot of great new technology in this sprayer. They also shared the new planter, and that's the new 2150S. As you look over this machine, a lot of the parts look familiar, but they added some increased capacity for fertilizer and seed capacity with two 50-bushel hoppers. Now, this split row planter is available in a lot of great configurations, and it has a transport width of just 13 feet. Case IH also unveiled the new Puma Series tractor, which features the multi-controller armrest. John Deere had a busy booth as well. One of the things that John Deere's put a lot of technology in recently is around the spray nozzle. And if you look very close in this video, they call it 3D. You'll notice application going forward and backwards. Pretty big deal. The National Farm Machinery Show gives producers a chance to look at equipment a lot of times for the very first time. Another great example of that is the T5 Series tractor from New Holland that was rolled out last fall. It's got a new engine, it creates more torque, it's a fantastic loader tractor. And for many producers, this was the first time they've had a chance to see it. Kinsey announced at the National Farm Machinery Show new configurations for their True Speed planters. On display, they had a 4905. Also on display, they had their 1121 auger cart, which was debuted last year at the Farm Progress Show. This auger cart draws back to the heritage of the old Kinsey 1050. 2021 marks 50 years in the auger cart business for Kinsey. Horsch had on display their single disc seeder. This thing's pretty impressive with two 88 bushel capacity containers. I'll tell you what an amazing tool if you've got to do some seeding, maybe soybeans or cover crops. Also at the show, I'm always looking for new first launches of equipment, and Brandt rolled out, you saw the sign there, a prototype high-speed disc. Now there's a lot of different configurations of this model. Expect to see that out in the field here this next year. Also, Kubota rolled out a new L-Series tractor. They had a great display. It's kind of nice to see. They had their M-Series tractor here with a baler. I think at events like this, it just gives producers a chance to get that first look at new equipment. Massey's interior of their S7 tractor looks absolutely amazing. Seeing all this equipment only means one thing. We're just that much closer to spring, and I can't wait. For This Week in Agribusiness, I'm Chad Colby.
The companies just keep coming along with these new advancements every few months. I bet you when we're at Boone, Iowa in August, you'll see some things that were not on display at Louisville. There's more coming up on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. Welcome back to this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. Over the past week, it has been FFA week, and I wanted to check in with one of my favorite FFA alums, a past national officer, past Indiana president of the FFA, a very popular motivational speaker, Scott McCain. Also an author, I might add, of 6 or 7 books. Scott, it's good to see you.
Guys, Max, it is so great to see you. We have, I remember you doing an interview with me many years ago as a national FFA officer. And so, good grief. That's one of the best things about not only FFA, but agribusiness is the great friendships that stand the test of time. So thank you for having me today.
Well, it didn't take you long to point out to the audience that I'm older than you. Thank you. Sure appreciate that. That's great, Scott.
I think you were in high school when you were doing that, weren't you?
Yeah. Now, I should point out you're the pride of Crothersville, Indiana, and at one time there was Armstrong Street. Am I correct that they changed the name of that street to Scott McCain Street?
Oh my gosh!
Am I right?
I did not know you knew that. Yes, Armstrong Street is the main drag. It's US 31, and they were kind enough to do that. It's now. I've always wondered what would happen if I do 60 miles an hour through town. Would they give me a speeding ticket on Scott McCain Drive? But I'm so grateful to my hometown and the opportunities that it gave me and FFA gave me. It's been what's made everything happen in my life.
You had radio in your background as a young man. I know you worked at a radio station at high school, and I believe perhaps also at Franklin College in Indiana. Did you not?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. People say, "Why didn't you go to Purdue?" And the only reason was that the guy that owned the radio station in Scottsburg, Indiana, where I worked, also owned the radio station at Franklin. So I had a job and could pay my way through college, and that was the only way it was going to happen for me. And our radio station in Scottsburg, where I worked in high school, the call letters are WMPI. So Max, we were literally Wimpy Radio.
Looking back on your career and how FFA prepared you, and to see how FFA has evolved over the years, it must be satisfying to you to see how that organization is so poised to help other young people in this day and age.
You hit the nail on the head, Max. It's just incredible. I think what FFA has done could be a model for many corporate organizations in terms of being able to respect the past and being able to hold to the values and the traditions of the past while moving towards increasing relevance every single day. FFA has just done an extraordinary job of what they are doing in terms of making certain that the program is impactful for the young people of today. And I was thinking back, I was one of the first that benefited from that, because I grew up on a small farm, but our farming operation wasn't enough that I could have attained the American degree simply on my production agriculture background. And so my work at the radio station doing farm broadcasting is what enabled me to get the American degree that in turn enabled me to run for national office. So I'm just totally a product of the progress and the relevance of FFA. It impacted my life back then, just as it's impacting hundreds of thousands of lives every single day.
I remember when you were state FFA president in Indiana, I was standing at the radio station in Princeton, Indiana, with a friend of mine, Steve Gibson, and we were listening to a tape of you. The FFA organization had distributed tapes around the state, and he put up that tape and he said, "Listen to this guy." And you stood out from the crowd back then as well. You share a message often with businessmen and women around the world about taking care of the customer, and you really have a great way of pointing that out, and it's so appropriate throughout all of life, is it not? Or whatever your vocation is.
I think it's so true. And I think part of what we're seeing right now, Max, with the great resignation that we're seeing, across America, but it's certainly impacting businesses in rural America to an incredible degree, is because we haven't taken care of our internal customers, our employees, as well as the people that buy from us. We hold the trademark on the term, the ultimate customer experience. And that's part of what I do, is teach organizations about what they can do to deliver that both internally and externally, so that they get the repeat and referral business that's the lifeblood of profitability. But to tie it back to FFA, that's part of what I learned through what I learned in my ag sales and service classes, is you've got to take care of the farmer, you got to take care of the customer, because agriculture is a special industry and agribusiness is special because there are so few of us, relatively speaking, that these are long-term repetitive relationships, and how we grow that with our customers and how we develop that with our customers is of primary importance in agribusiness, and that's one of the things that FFA teaches.
In the last half minute here, one thing that occurs to me is FFA members are often mentored by someone in the community, an FFA advisor. That role of mentor is so important, and it's such a giving thing, isn't it?
It's so true, Max. I mean, I still remember sitting on the next to the last row at Loeb Playhouse at Purdue University with my ag teacher, who was a great mentor of mine, and hearing the speakers and learning. And I think that's one of the main strengths of FFA too, is that members mentor members, national officers mentor state officers who mentor chapter officers. And it is growth that's internal and dynamic. And it's just such a great model, not only for young people, but for all of agribusiness.
What a pleasure to have you on the broadcast, sir. We're going to do this again sometime. We need more.
I would look forward to that, Max. It's great to see you again. Thank you for having me, and happy National FFA Week.
I can't wait to drive through your hometown in Indiana down Armstrong Street. Get that straight?
Yes.
Take care of yourself,
Which is what
Scott.
most people still call it. Thank goodness.
Travel safely, sir.
See you soon, Max. Thank you.
Scott McCain, former National Secretary of the FFA, here at the end of FFA Week.
This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH.
Welcome back here to this weekend's This Week in Agribusiness. On almost a weekly basis, we've been talking about an upcoming big meeting for the agriculture industry across the heartland of the country. Commodity Classic, they call it. It'll be going on in New Orleans. And after all of this passage of time, not having one last year, it is coming up. Matt Bornhorst is here to join us to talk a little bit about one company's involvement there, Pivot Bio. Matt, we know you're with Pivot Bio in Nebraska, and you're looking forward to meeting producers one-on-one in New Orleans, aren't you?
Absolutely. What an exciting opportunity to be back face-to-face and in conversation this year.
That's one thing we've heard from folks who've been to meetings in recent weeks. They said it's so nice to have that contact again. And being involved in sales yourself, that's really important. And you've got a lot to talk about in terms of filling producers' needs these days.
Absolutely. Nitrogen's top of mind for every grower. So we're excited to be back side by side with our customers as well as our industry colleagues to have that conversation with growers around nitrogen management and the opportunity that exists here as we plan for that upcoming 2022 crop year.
With all of the uncertainty over crop inputs in terms of availability and pricing as well, your timing at Pivot has been just absolutely perfect, it seems.
Yes, we couldn't be more excited about what we come to the market with in 2022. We never would have thought that the marketing would be where it is with nitrogen prices, but an opportunity to give growers the upper hand and take back their nitrogen management is such an exciting conversation. I actually get that opportunity here today with growers in Nebraska, and look forward to that opportunity when we get together with growers from all over the country in New Orleans here in a couple weeks.
At the Commodity Classic, we know that there's always a trade show presence for Pivot Bio. There has been, and we trust that'll be the case again in the show just coming up here.
Absolutely. We couldn't be more excited about the opportunity to showcase our product at the upcoming trade show at Commodity Classic, because growers are going to get a chance on the big screen to see how our technology works and come by our booth to get a chance to connect with us on a personal level. We also have our unique Connect popcorn that growers will get a chance to see our technology, but also get a chance to taste it as well. And when we look at this, we got a great opportunity for growers to come in, and we're going to partner with Corn Warriors, have the crowning for one of their events there. Also, I think there's going to be an appearance on Thursday. Get a chance that you'll join us for a bit of time Thursday afternoon in our booth. But really a great opportunity, interactive within our setting, to have growers in our booth to get a chance to touch and feel and see our product.
There's an informational session as well, isn't there? Isn't there a classroom experience, or at least an opportunity to answer questions with growers?
That's correct. On Friday, growers will get a chance in the What's New session on Friday afternoon at 3:45 in room 275. Our team will be putting on a session, an educational session for growers to understand how our product works, some new and upcoming things that are coming on board with our products and our portfolio. Get a chance to hear from growers who have used our product as well in the same token. So this is really a great opportunity for us to connect with growers at every level.
The producers have used your product, and I know some very well. They've come up to me because they've heard me helping convey the message, and they're just downright evangelistic about it. They've become real believers. I believe it's booth 1006, is it not?
That is correct. We look forward to hosting everyone in our booth at 1006. Absolutely.
Matt, we appreciate it. Nice to visit with you. We'll see you in New Orleans.
Absolutely. Look forward to the opportunity. Thanks, Max.
Matt Bornhorst with Pivot Bio. Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead, presented by Pivot Bio Proven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot Bio Proven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. At every meeting we attend, the subject of weather comes up. Greg, just a few days ago, I was at the Louisville Farm Show, and I had a wonderful visit with a very nice woman from Western Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And she was telling me what it was like to survive that December 10th tornado outbreak. As the storm went over her home, she was sheltered in an interior bathroom of the home. She said afterward it became so quiet. Exactly. That was the thing she would remember about the storm, she said.
And kudos to her for finding that interior room, safest place, enclosed bathroom in the height of a severe weather outbreak. And yeah, to have some of that stuff go on in the summertime, you know, let alone the month of November and December where we had severe weather this season, pretty wild and action-packed. That same area, by the way, has been subject to just way too much rainfall the past couple of weeks. Excess rainfall, flooding issues as well. Could be the story as we get get deeper into the springtime season and beyond. Meanwhile, western Washington, good news from a drought standpoint. The rest of areas of the northern and central high plains of the Rockies, forget about it. The cold air is abating, coming off some of that 35-degree below zero type stuff, and there will be some moisture into areas of the Pacific Northwest early in the week. That front skedaddles right on through. Note the Arctic air gone for a change. Milder and a couple of sprinkles and snowflakes here. It is a quieter weather picture across the heartland for this week. And later in the week, back to outdoor endeavors through Washington State and Oregon, Northern California, with a cooler, drier air mass settling on in. Yes, we were certainly lulled, maybe fooled into complacency with the really December outbreak of moisture in the Sierra and across California. Only about 70% of normal the snowpack. We've already run into runoff, coming off some of the warmth over the past couple of weeks. Windy weather across the desert Southwest. Pretty quiet setup coming off the snow and ice. You wanted moisture. Didn't say what kind you got, or wanted, but you got it in the southern plains last week. Here's a warm front moving on through, and it's pretty delightful for spring breakers across the southwestern part of the country. No significant moisture again this week into California, the southwestern states. All high and dry and a nice recovery on temperatures from Kansas on southward later in the week.
And that Plain States area, will the temperatures be warming up a little bit? I mean, we've had some very cold readings. Has people thinking about getting away for spring break?
That's right. Southwest part of the country will be the place to be. The cold air abating. Actually, we have a little thaw coming later in the week. Seasonal cold. That's it. None of this barbaric stuff through the upper Midwest. Fast-moving disturbance across the Midwest, coming off a range of snow and ice across areas of the Corn Belt. And, of course, southward to the I-70 corridor into the Ohio and south from there. Too much rainfall of late, but a much quieter weather picture. That warm front moves on through. Thaw-free cycles, but again, pretty nice weather pattern with temperatures a little bit above average here as we welcome in March along and west of the Mississippi. A couple of sprinkles and snowflakes up north towards the Sioux. The drought pattern is kind of reestablishing itself. Never really left, but strengthening central and southern plains. But at least it is a comfortable one with outdoor work, with livestock on the central and southern plains coming off last week's snow and ice. Milder environs across the Delta region as well. Boy, just some recurrent frosted freezes, by the way, over the past couple of weeks into California and in through Florida. There'll be some shower activity breaking out central and southern plains mid to late portions of the week. Just nominal drought improvement expected there.
Take us along the East Coast.
Weather pattern is a certainly quieter one coming off the barrage of snow and ice last week. Fast moving front, milder, and a thaw gets going into the northeast of New England. Little dash of moisture up towards the Sioux. No Arctic air in sight. A thaw gets going back west of the Sioux into the Corn Belt areas of the Mississippi Valley and Midwest, with some sunshine as well, and pretty quiet weather expected across the northeastern states as well as southeastern sections of the country. Yeah, frost and freeze of late into northern and central Florida. That abates. Onshore flow, a couple of showers there. Nice quiet weather picture early in the week. Later in the week, some moisture into the southern plains, high pressure and sunshine and milder weather over the southeastern sections of the country.
Greg Solier is back with his extended farm weather forecast for the country, presented by Pivot BioProven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot BioProven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. We need to talk a little bit about drought with Mr. Greg Solier, because that drought monitor map, every time you look at it, seems very impressive. Are we seeing any erosion of the drought area now?
Yeah, as a whole, it is impressive looking, but yeah, beginning to see some modest improvement coming off either recent rain or snow melt into the Red River Valley of the North. Sections of the western Corn Belt locales you can roughly see along the Missouri on westward, still into position and intact with the exception of Washington State. It's been ebbing and flowing, some improvement, some worsening. These areas and in the southwest pretty much holding sway and coming off a depressing winter precip pattern across the west and southwest. But look at the improvement here. Too much moisture into parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. A little drier than you like to see through Florida. And there's been modest improvement into sections of the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region. From at least a perspective of looking ahead here into March and April, further improvement will expand through Big Sky Country, the northern plains into the upper Midwest, and the specter of probably some flooding getting going here over the eastern Corn Belt and points on southward. Little change over the mid-Atlantic region. Drought expands farther into the southeastern part of the country and will persist, Max. That's the story of La Nina over the southern plains and southwestern sections of the country.
Well, now that has the look of delayed planting in the eastern Corn Belt. I wonder if it'd be that bad. Well, let's look at the week ahead, first of all, and see what kind of moisture we're expecting.
Much quieter weather picture to kind of assess things, get feed and supply moved around. around. 10th to quarter across much of the heartland. Any bit of organized snow will stay light through the Great Lakes region. Quarter to 3/4. This is good news over this part of the country. Little to none over the southwestern sections, and a half to 1 inch, but again, focused on western Washington state.
All right, let's look at the week of March 7th. Many of our producer friends will be in New Orleans for Commodity Classic. How does that week appear?
A nice thaw continues on across the heartland. Temperatures a little bit below average, but who's to complain with 60s and 70s along the Gulf Coast area. Normal temperatures over the mid-Atlantic region, Pacific Northwest, a bit cooler than average, but look at this, and snow melt to boot, what's left of it through the Midwest and the Corn Belt. But it's an active weather pattern. May put down some snow and ice again. Good news here across Montana, the northern and central parts of the Great Lakes region into the northeast of New England. Not much going on. Dry weather down towards New Orleans, Texas, and across the southwestern part of the country.
Well, the next couple of maps should take us into spring, the spring season.
That's right, 10:33, I do believe, in the central time zone here, and the warmth gets shoved to the north and east. Rapid snow melt for the northeast of New England, lower lakes region. Temperatures about normal over the southeastern part of the country. Note the little dip in the jet stream pattern here, so temperatures are a bit below average from about the Red River on westward, and the moisture pattern continues along that periphery of warmth versus cold. Pacific Northwest, good news, northern to central plains, maybe some late season snows as well. Upper Midwest, you bet, more rain in the wet areas of the Ohio Valley. Normal precip, we'll take that in some of the drier areas of the southeastern section of the country.
How about the week of March 21st?
From a temperature standpoint, here we go. Here comes the cold. Here is the warmth. It is springtime with a strong jet stream. The bottom line across the heartland and eastward, showers and thunderstorms and late season snow too.
Next on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, spotlighting another great American tractor.
Quite often a tractor restoration will lead to something else. You know, when you've got a tractor that needs fixing up, maybe it gets restored for a special event. We'll talk about one at Max's Tractor Shed, brought to you by Store Lock Tool Cabinets. We had a wonderful time visiting with folks at the National Farm Machinery Show there at the Store Lock booth. If you didn't have a chance to see those cabinets in person, go to their website. I urge you to take a look at what they have, StoreLock.com. Well, at Simpson Farms at Owensville, Indiana, they have this 1466. Now, this was prior to the restoration. I assure you, that tractor now looks a lot better. When it came out in 1973, it was about a 125 horsepower tractor. I believe International made that 1466 from 1971 to 1976. Look at how this one appears now restored. Denny Simpson made sure that that tractor was in good shape for a special occasion. Last summer, Emily Simpson married Kyle Rexig, and that 1466 had an important role transporting the wedding party there in southern Indiana. Simpson Farms, the home of this Farmall 1466. Mark Stock has an interesting auction coming up. He has one every week, to be sure. Check out this one. Well, I think there are more than 2,000 items to be sold.
Well, Max, our March 2nd sale, over 2,200 items will sell to the highest bidder. A big sale for Randy Scott Farms, Inc. as they retire in Bono, Arkansas, featuring some outstanding Case IH Magnum Series tractors. There's a Case IH 7240, 76 items in all will sell on the Randy Scott Farms retirement sale. The Robert Gherkin Estate sale in Wakefield, Nebraska, featuring 172 items, and their headliner piece is a 1971 John Deere 4320 tractor with a loader. David and Kimberly Roberts are retiring out of Gouda Springs, Kansas. They've got over 100 items on their retirement sale, featuring a 2007 Case IH self-propelled sprayer, and they've got a Case IH STX 375 four-wheel drive tractor plus 3 John Deere combines. David and Rachel Macklin are retiring from Bancroft, Nebraska. They've got a 2002 International 9100 tri-axle truck with a steel box and hoist. They've got a John Deere 8310R mechanical front tractor, real good quality equipment. Estes Farms Inc., they're retiring in Altoona, Kansas. They've got a John Deere 9320 four-wheel drive tractor and a John Deere 8410 plus a John Deere 1770 series 16-row 30 planter. We've got over 30 retirement auctions in the month of March alone, Max. Quality equipment, all sales to the highest bidder with no reserve.
This Week in Agribusiness is proud to get to know our FFAers around the country, and this week we're meeting Emma Coos. She's the Nebraska FFA State Secretary. Emma, what are you looking forward to here in the remainder of the 2022 school year with FFA?
The thing I'm looking forward to the most is definitely our state convention that's going to be happening in April. So it's coming up very fast. We're just a little over a month until we get there, and so we're looking forward to putting that together. We've been having a lot of meetings to get that started, but then leading up into state convention, we're doing our chapter visit program. So you'll see right now I'm in a school, so I'm meeting with members right now, and it's been a lot of fun to teach them about some leadership development skills as well as working on getting ready for careers in agriculture. And so just getting to know the members has been super, super exciting. And I'm super ready to get to continue doing that for the rest of the school year and then leading up into state convention.
It'll be here before we know it. Emma, as you think about what prompted you to join FFA, what was it? What made you decide this was an organization you wanted to be a part of?
Well, I actually didn't grow up in agriculture. Both of my parents were in the medical field. So the thing that really brought me into FFA was my older brother who did it the year before me. And he was like, Emma, just try it out. Just do creed speaking for a year. And I was like, okay, I'm very hesitant because I was very shy at first. And so I decided to give it a shot and I memorized the creed. And after I competed at my first leadership development event, I was absolutely hooked. I enjoyed getting to meet all of the other FFA members because I honestly feel like there's no one else like the people in agriculture. Everybody is so willing to help you learn and grow as an individual, and that's something that's super helpful to somebody who didn't grow up in ag. And so just being able to ask others questions and then being so open to help you learn is amazing.
It certainly is, and it sounds like you are going to pursue a career in agriculture. Emma Coos, FFA State Secretary for Nebraska, we wish you the best.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
We cross paths with some of the most interesting people out there as we travel the country covering agriculture. We'll share with you one of those individuals in our final segment this weekend.
Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. We meet some of the most fantastic people working in the ag industry. And Max, I know you've recently been reflecting on a friend of yours that certainly had an impact.
A gentleman by the name of Harold Stark. I first met probably 40 years ago, and he worked for about 40 years every year in what they called Pioneer Village at the Indiana State Fair. Harold kept those steam tractors going. There was a passion for him, as he explained a few years back.
It's been a rewarding experience over all these years of seeing some moms and dads bring some little children who are still in diapers, and they've grown up now and have families of their own. But it's the people that comes to the fair that remembers and come back and visit with you each year. It makes it real rewarding.
As a very young man in Rush County, Indiana, Harold Stark got started helping his grandfather with old steam tractors.
I got involved with helping him when I was 9 years old, polishing all the brass, and then when I got a little older, he'd take us on Sunday to drain the engine and do a boiler wash, so he'd got all the sediment and the dirt out of the boiler so it wouldn't destroy it. And I learned, started in it at that age, and then studied it. I built this engine. First when I built a small 1-inch scale, and I had an uncle that was real good on steam, and he said, Bud, why didn't you build one we could ride on? And I thought that was a good idea, and I went home and started making prints and sketches out of a 1909 catalog, and then I found a full-size engine and took measurements off of to finish it. So I built that engine started in 1974 and finished in 79, and I built it as a memorial to my grandfather and all of my uncles, and I had 2 other individuals was important in teaching me everything about steam and mechanical engineering.
As a younger man, Harold Stark made a living as a welder. He worked for the Allison division of General Motors in Indianapolis. And on a project sometime in the 60s, Harold said he wasn't sure what they were working on, but he found out later those were fuel tanks that played a role in the Apollo space missions of the 60s. Harold reflected back on his career.
Well, I told the people when I retired from Allison that I wasn't going to be like the average retiree get myself in a rocking chair and sit on the front porch and watch the cars go by as they went down in front of the house on Meridian Street. I said, I'm going to keep busy. I have done that.
Harold took a lot of pride in keeping machines running there in what they call Pioneer Village of the Indiana State Fairgrounds on the north side of Indianapolis. He said he did it, as he explained one time, he said he did that so that future generations could understand how far we have come in agriculture. Harold, had he still been around this past week, would have been 100 years old on February 22nd. He died back on Christmas Eve. Mike, he sent me a note last summer. He said, on February 22nd, 2021, I was 99. It's a treasure. Your friend forever, Harold Stark. Quite a guy.
Absolutely amazing people in Ag. Max, is Pioneer Village in good hands going forward?
They have a lot of great volunteers who pitch in there, and the fairgoers certainly want to see it in the best condition they possibly can, because it's a great destination there, just like other state fairs
Absolutely.
we see across the country. Thanks for being with us this weekend. We hope you have a great week. So long, everyone.
Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Kubota. Shape your world. This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Case IH. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by Omax Communications in association with 22 Creative Group. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.